Streaming now on IWTV, Freelance Wrestling. Check our schedule for all future Freelance Wrestling live streams. Watch over 90 Freelance Wrestling events anytime on demand. Featuring Brian Keith, Kylie Ray, Storm Grayson, Bang & Matthews, Effie, and more.
Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP John Poz from the Two-Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the doctor himself, Dr. M. Lavie Marg. Lavie, what's going on today, sir?
Hey, John, I'm doing well. So as I've been talking about, basically for the last 13 months, these independent wrestling shows that I've been going to in Yonkers, Victory Pro Wrestling, it's actually quite rare that both my son is interested, who we've talked about. I've taken him to WWE, the top of Madison Square Garden. So,
Yep.
But my AEW tickets for the holiday weren't bad. They were third row, but they felt really far away. But he was like, thanks, Dad. It was fine. But when he's gone to this Victory Pro Wrestling at, I believe it's a VFW hall, one time inside, one time outside,
yes,
in consecutive summers, like he had the best time. Maybe he was getting too involved in it. So, and my wife loved it too. She asked to go back as well. So it's really a family affair. So a guest that I wanted to have on a while is a representative from VFW. So we're fortunate to have John, to allay any confusion. John from VPW. John, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Welcome. I'm welcoming myself. Thank you for bringing me in. Let's talk. What can we?
Yeah,
let's break it down.
So, John, just to break this down from you, where did
Yes.
you grow up? Because we always ask our guests, because I feel like that sparks the interest in wrestling of where you're from, the area. So, where did you grow up, and what sparked your interest in wrestling?
I was a New York City kid. I was born in the Bronx, moved to Queens when I was 3. And at 12, we moved out to Long Island, over in Suffolk County. I was just a fan of wrestling. Kind of was introduced to it right around 87-ish or so. I had a chance to see some tapes, Ric Flair, some Roddy Piper, some Greg the Hammer Valentine, some Snuka, some really good things, some stuff that was NWA, which in New York at the time there wasn't NWA. So these were tapes, and these were things that we're getting in from different places and whatever. So when I got a chance to see some of these, I said, "Oh, this is cool." And then I got invited by a family friend to go see the NWA, which was the Bunkhouse Stampede 3 in '88 at the Nassau Coliseum, which I think that was at the time the first real attempt at a pay-per-view or a PLE style event for the NWA at the time in the New York area. I know that they've gone into New York, but that was the first time they did a pay-per-view there. And one of the NWA's staples at the time, which also happened to be the last Bunkhouse Stampede, but that was wow, this is my first live wrestling event. Then that was pretty much it. Then I started watching whatever it was, Prime Time, and then what turned into Monday Night Raw. By that point, I was more following on the business side or entertainment side, as opposed to, hey, look, I'm watching wrestling. And it was Raw versus Nitro, and WWF versus WCW, and that's kind of where it all took off for me.
So with you, when do you thinking to yourself that, hey, I want to get in wrestling, I want to be involved, I want to get...
Never.
Wow, okay.
I was a radio kid. At 16, I got into radio. My high school had a radio station. I started there, and then from there, I built 15 years of programming, production, commercial writing. I've done promotions, basically anything you can think of in the radio industry except for sales. That was never a thing for me. But everything else, anything that you can possibly imagine, music programming, music director, I've pretty much done it all. Well, on-site stuff, behind the scenes, engineering, dabbled with sports, not well, but not bad. Just not my forte, but it was still like, hey, look, I need somebody to do a sports show or to do we need a play-by-play guy here today. It's like, all right, let's do it. I know enough to kind of carry it, but you're not going to see me on NBC. So that was really like my whole foray into entertainment. I got out when I found out that I was going to be a dad. So to me, that was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna be an adult now. And I did that. And then a friend of mine, a coworker at one of my jobs, now that I'm not in radio, I'm working in a corporate office. And she had told me that one of her friends was looking for some work. And what the work was is they were looking for a ring announcer. And she'd known that I had done some work in the past at radio. We had talked about like she was training to be a wrestler at one point. Her boyfriend was wrestling, so she asked if I'd want to come down and just get a lay of the land. I'm like, no. But I ended up taking my son and as my litmus test. He took a look at it and he loved it. So I went back to her. I said, let's talk to the promoter. That was a little over 15 years ago. So we got together, we talked for a little bit. I did one show and I said, I'm done. I don't know if this, whatever, but my son, he loved it. And the way I felt at the end of the night is like, I was like, you know what, we'll do this again. I talked with the promoter and then I, can't get rid of me. I was there for about 9 years. They sold the company, new ownership, kept me on board. I did some more back end work, office work, behind the scenes work. And then in the pandemic, I ended up taking over the company.
Wow. So basically 20 years, right? Kind of looking back?
For me, 15 out of the 20 years. For
Okay.
Victory Pro Wrestling, it's 20 years.
So they've always emphasized family friendly, the accessible live events. You can bring your friends, you can bring your
Yes.
families. So how do you embrace the action, the hard hitting action with storytelling, but also like the atmosphere for all ages, for families? So how is that kind of central to VPW?
Well, I mean, it's the foundation of who we are. I know in the beginning, before I came in, it was a little bit more hardcore, a little bit more edgy. I'm not against the edge. I'm not against any of that stuff. But the idea was that they were trying to create something and they didn't really know what their identity was at that point. Before I came on board, before I came into the whole picture, for that last part of that 5 years, they were finally starting to identify who they were, what kind of a wrestling company they wanted to be. And everyone that was on board at the time, I just was a piece of the puzzle. I was just the mouth that went ahead and said, ladies and gentlemen, and brought people into the idea of what was coming up next. For me, once I saw what this product was, what was going on, for me, it was just about letting them know that the next match they're about to see is the greatest match they're ever going to see. Even if it's not, they don't have to know that. At the time, that was my mentality, because at the time, it's like we are larger than life for these people that are paying $15, $20 to come to a wrestling show. This is back 15 years ago. So we're trying to give them something that's worth the value, something that they want to see. For me, it was just about just trying to take that and give them something. Now, as far as the family friendly aspect of it, it just happened to be where they were going, because and this is a philosophy that I've picked up on myself, is that the kids want to see wrestling. If you and one of your buddies want to go out and grab a drink, and while you're just on your way over to a bar, you're like, hey, there's a wrestling show going on down the road. your investment is going to just be entertained for a couple of hours, maybe buy a drink or two, maybe grab a snack somewhere. But at the end of the show, you're out the door, and maybe you're going to another bar, or maybe you're going someplace else, just, continue on the night, or maybe you're calling it a night and that's it. But these kids, they're investing themselves. They want to be invested in what they're watching. And they grow with us. They have grown with us. There's a couple of people that we've had when I first started that are still coming to shows today, and there's families that have grown up with us. One of my friends, someone who I talk to all the time, his name is Emily. She grew up with us, basically. Like they had a fundraiser for a couple of people at the job that she was at. And she's been with us as a fan. She's been with us since. So it's like, that's pretty cool, So as far as the difference between a couple of people hanging out at a show and then a family is that family is going to continue to come back. So you have to give them something that's worth coming back to, whether it's story, whether it's something that's not going to be downright crass or vulgar. It's something that's going to basically give them a reason to want to come back versus some other opportunities, other companies that are creating some kind of smash mouth car accident wrestling, which, I'm for. I mean, we're running a few storylines right now where it is very car crash style wrestling, that very edginess, where it's like, what's going on here? Because it works. It's just not something that you can count on all the time. Like big time NWA, big time WCW style of what's going on type thing, but in a way where it's controlled, so that at the end of the day, the big reveal of what happens next will make sense to anybody that's following along. The YouTube page, what we're doing online, we integrate everything. Our social media page, we have stories on our website. We're basically, if you're a fan and you want to see what's going on, you can follow what's going on our website. You can go ahead and follow us on social media. You can see who's coming up. You can see what's happening. And then you can go ahead and get a good idea of what you're coming into with a VPW live event.
Let me tag into Lavie, who's got a lot of questions for you.
Hey.
Yes. Hey, so I asked my son, because I said I have this opportunity to talk to you, and I said, does he have any questions or messages that he wanted to convey? So not to put you on the spot, and unfortunately I don't remember the performer's name, but in the summer of 2025, there was a man that was skinny, on the skinnier side, who was a heel, and the fans were chanting chicken legs at him. And he was in an impromptu tag match, I believe, against somebody that was in WWE ID program at the time. So he really wants chicken legs back. So if you can make that happen, I'm not sure if maybe they moved on to a career in medicine or accounting or something like that. But if they are still available.
You're talking about David Graham, and he is actually our current New York State champion. So, okay. So he was, That's hilarious.
And so talking about families returning, we're in the Riverdale area of the Bronx, and we did recognize 2 other families. So something is certainly building there. One of the things that I enjoy, of course, talking about behind the scenes of wrestling, venue selection really makes the show. And in looking at your history, it seems like you sort of find a venue or an association, a relationship, and you build on that and work on that.
Right.
How do you select venues? Let's start with New York. I know you've been expanding to other places, but finding those venues, finding the right partners.
So we had grown up over at the VFW Post in Center Reach. And we were also in the Deer Park Community Center in Deer Park. Those were our 2 homes for the first 14 years of who we were. In Deer Park, we were there for maybe about 6 of those years, but Center Reach was home. When the pandemic hit, the VFW Post sold the building, and we had to start from scratch basically, but we had to find a new home. To me, the mindset was I want to bring something where, as a community, people recognize and people know, and can also associate with sports. So for me, in this case, especially when we're coming back, I wanted to keep it close to what we had as home at the time, which was in Center Ridge. I tried to find a venue that would relate to sports, that would still be in the neighborhood, and still be something that would work for our community, be it location and everything else. And we found the sports arena in St. James, which was about 6 to 8 minutes on Google from where we used to run. So to me, that was the perfect place to go. When we started looking for a secondary home, which ended up being our new home in Bay Shore, we were looking again, something that can connect the sports but still be able to have an intimate feel. Sports arena, great place, huge. But if we don't have 500 people in that building, it looks empty. So we wanted something that was going to be a little bit more intimate, something that was going to be a little bit more rowdy when our fans would get excited, regardless of how many people were there. But I also wanted something that still had that sports-like feel. So that's where we went to. We're over at in Bay Shore at Pro Game Sports. And one of the things that we've picked up on over in the last 6 months is our lighting setup. So we changed the way we look. It's a little bit more controlled on our end, so that not only do we now have this beautiful venue, but we also have more control on what it looks like and how to make certain aspects of what we do a little bit more exciting. I mean, again, we're talking about providing something for kids, providing something for families, providing something for fans that are coming to these events. Now we're looking at a $25 general admission ticket. I want to give them something that they think, wow, $25, that's it. Wow, I feel like I just ripped them off. I want them to feel like they won tonight because they came out, had a great show. They came out, met the stars. They went ahead and they had a venue that looked good, but also the lighting was something that just blew them away. I wanted to feel like they ripped me off. I wanted to feel like they took my money because we went ahead and put out this great presentation for them, but they went ahead and they're the ones that end up winning because they had a great look, they had a great show, they had a great time, and they go home with great memories. So for me, trying to find something that can capitalize on building that kind of a mindset, that can kind of take advantage of being creative, and giving us flexibility. It's really just it's about the aesthetics, and a good building is definitely something that is it's important. Now, you mentioned Yonkers. We had one of our coordinators up in the Yonkers area, Bruce. He was looking for us to do a memorial for a fallen hero of ours, a former wrestler who passed away. Well, he wasn't a former wrestler. He was a wrestler until his dying day. He died in Japan in October. And we wanted to do something special, and we didn't think that the community was actually doing anything. So we said, well, let's step up and do something. He used to work for us. He used to wrestle for us. So there was a tie there. So we went ahead, we created this program, Memorial Mayhem. We went ahead over at the VFW Post on McLean, and it was an indoor venue. And I just love the aesthetic behind it. It was small, but it was very good as far as the aesthetic. We jammed a lot of people in there that day, and we had a great time. You mentioned David Graham. You mentioned chicken legs, but David Graham was involved in a match with Bryce Donovan, who at the time had just been involved with the WWE ID program. And there were some other great talents that were on that show that was packed with Memorial Rumble in honor of Juan Jeremy, which was the talent that had passed away about 6 months earlier. And it was a great venue. They actually called me. Donald there, the commander, called me up and said, "Hey, we have somebody that wants to rent the building, but they also want to rent your ring." I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Turned out it was Law and Order SVU. They were looking to do a scene or a setting involving, I guess one of the characters is involved with MMA or boxing or some kind of a fighting storyline on the TV show. So they wanted to go weekend and they wanted to film something on site and create that mindset. So he called me up. We went ahead. I brought my ring up there. They did 2 days or a day and a half worth of taping. And then we had a good 7 seconds of actual ring time on TV, in addition to some of the other settings that they had. It was kind of cool. I thought that was really great that somebody else saw the vision that we saw, because the way we laid out the ring was the same way we laid out the ring when we were there for the show, and that's what they wanted. They wanted us to recreate the same thing that they had. And then going back again this year for the Yonkers show that we just had, where Legion of Honor, where it was an outdoor event. I had actually been there before for other shows that were there. So the vision was kind of like, well, I know what I want to see and how I want to make this so that the fans get a great experience. Having Bill Apter there was so cool. He was so fun, easy to work with, and he loved it. He wants to do more stuff with us, and that's really cool. Bill Apter, I don't know if you know, for some people that may be watching, they may not know who he is. He's a legend in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, and some of the other classic wrestling magazines that have defined pretty much any kind of magazine writing that's currently out there. I'm sure that guys like The Torch and WON and some of the other online versions of internet wrestling communities, they've all come from that Bill Apter model. So, PWI 500, that all came as a part of, none of that would exist if it wasn't for Bill Apter, and just being able to have him there, that was so cool. But finding a venue, finding a building, finding wherever, it's about capturing the energy. Can we capture the energy? I love the sports arena in St. James. I don't feel it captured the energy that I was hoping to attract. Bayshore, we have it. The two places in Yonkers, we have it. We're going to Riverhead August 1st. I don't know if we're going to capture it there. We'll find out. But I'm excited for the way that's going to look out. I've already sketched out a couple of ideas of how I want certain things. We got to put up our cage. I'm really I'm worried about how it's going to look, but only because I'm a perfectionist and I want to make sure it looks great. When we were over in Connecticut, when we were in New Jersey, the opportunities for us to do some really cool things. Again, all about trying to find a way to capture the energy of the community and bring them into the action.
Yeah, and I really appreciated having Bill Apter there. He came over to my son and I and just introduced himself right away. I wasn't sure if, before getting to the venue, I'd have to buy his book or something like that, but he wasn't looking for that. One of the things that we've talked about with many promoters and we've been following is sort of people's impressions of the independents now. And for those that are probably more tied in, I would say, to like the hardcore audience, the streaming world, and so on, the booking national talent, international talent, that, the independents are down. Even like a leader like Brett Lauderdale from GCW, we'll talk about it. But I feel like, given your work, that maybe it's a little bit insulated from that a little bit. Because of the talents, many of them seemingly homegrown and doing independent shows. And what I would guess is that a fair amount of your business is probably like private birthday parties and things like that.
we do have some birthday parties, and we do some other events as well. But our primary business, everything. I mean, Victory Pro Wrestling is a live event entertainment program, and people come to see us, and that's what we do. Everything else, like if we're doing a private event or a private fundraiser or ring rental, that stems from who we are. And not the other way around. Like our primary focus will always be able to is always going to be to put on a live event and bringing in talent. Now, as far as the bubble or the different world, if you will, I don't think that what we've done captures a global version of what independent wrestling is, because I believe that if we build a good story, I believe that if we build great matches that are entertaining for our fans, that when we bring in a top TV star, when we bring in somebody from overseas, when we bring in somebody from across the country, that we're just adding a little bit of spice to the magic that we're creating at home, as opposed to bringing in a TV star and hoping that this is going to be what makes us bigger or makes us better. I think that when we do something like that, that we're looking to enhance the product. My main concern, as far as like bringing in talents that are not our homegrown people, are they going to be able to enhance what we do, and are we going to be able to help them as well? We had a wonderful talent from Australia, Kyla Knight. She was with us maybe it was 2 years ago. It's been a while, but she was in the States. She worked with us. She worked with a couple of other local promotions. She trained over at Nightmare Factory. She had worked at the Folly Dojo. She had worked with a couple of other big name programs while also in Australia. She's a very talented performer. I'd love to bring her back into VPW at one point. We've had some other talents. We had a couple of talents from Ireland, from France, someone from New Zealand, Jordan Sparkles. We had a couple of people from Chile. They came to one of our events. So, the idea of bringing in people and entertaining and bringing in the culture is big for us. But, I'm not bringing in super big name stars. And when we do, it's going to be because it's to help enhance what we do. Like, for example, one of the stars that I brought in was Fandango, Dango Curtis. We brought him in a few years ago, but we also brought in some future stars, some newer stars that were 18, 19, 20 years old to that are primed to be on TV, like a Brittany Brooks. We have worked well with formerly known as Notorious Mimi, and Sloan Jacobs. We've worked with some other talents, obviously Bryce Donovan, who was a WWE ID guy, but he's also a local homegrown talent who has worked over at Creative Pro just a few miles away. He's worked there, he's trained there, he's done stuff with us probably for a good 7 years. So it's not like, hey, look, we're just bringing it right out and surprise. These are some of the people that have come to work with us before. So it's not like we're trying to start from scratch or create something out of something. We're building something that is special for us as a company, but most importantly for the fans. It works for other companies, sure, but my goal is just try to find a way to run a good product that's going to entertain our fans and keep things afloat without busting the budget.
So I'll just put out there, Tommy Dreamer's on the market from Yonkers next time you come back.
I heard.
So awesome. I feel like we just scratched the surface, but let me turn over to John so we can get all of the information and people can follow and attend the shows.
Sure.
Yeah, so where can everybody find and follow you and VPW and everything you got going on, all your shows to get tickets?
All right. So for anybody that wants to know anything about what's going on with Victory Pro Wrestling, you can visit our website at victoryprowrestling.com. There are links to our Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube, where you can go ahead and see all the things that are happening. We're very active on social media. We're very active on our YouTube page, although it admittedly, the last couple of months, it has been not as active. There's been a lot of outside circumstances that have been affecting that. But we are looking to re-gear back and to start uploading and going back into monthly updates when it comes to live events. We try to put our events on the internet probably within 2 to 3 weeks after the live event has actually happened. This way, when you watch the show, obviously I want you to be there, but for someone that didn't get a chance to go there 3 weeks later, hey, they see it online. They get to watch. They get to see what happened at the anniversary show. They get to see what happened at the firehouse in West Babylon. Excuse me. They get to see what happened when we were in Yonkers again. So they get to get that feel of being in the action when we go to our website, going to another live event. We also have news updates, which is one of those few things you don't see a lot of in the independents. It's very rare. And when I first started working with the website about 12 or 13 years ago, my thought was we need to be different. We need to stand out. How do we do that? Let's create news. Let's give fans something to read about. And part of that was, and this is the business side of it, as a website coordinator or a website manager, you want to have people go to your website, right? If you have nothing new, they'll go there, they'll get what they want, and they'll leave. But they're not coming back. They're not coming back to see that you're doing a birthday. They're not coming back that you're seeing, the next event. They got their ticket. They don't care. So creating the website and recreating the website to include that is there. So there's stories up there. There's profiles that we have. We talk about what we're doing, and of course there are so many other features that we have for our talents, for our fans, and for potential clients and ring rentals and private events. So there is a lot on our website at victoryprowrestling.com where you can go ahead and do that. Now our Twitter and our Instagram pages is VPW_wrestling. And you can go ahead and follow us there. And then of course on Facebook, it's not really new, but it's the new Victory Pro Wrestling, so that you can just go ahead and click on that. Now, as far as I just said a lot. Just go to victoryprowrestling.com. The links to our social media, they're all up on the website.
All right, awesome. John, thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Take care.
All right, thank you. See you in Yonkers soon. We are talking about coming back, so it's just a matter of just sitting with the guys and scheduling it.
Great. We don't have to wait till next summer. Come on down.
Listen, they're trying. So I have to look at my schedule and make it work for everybody.
Take care.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, John.
Good talking with you.
All right, Lavie, let's go to the news. Let's talk NWA.
Yeah, this is amazing, John. I feel like we willed this into the universe. Like, how many weeks have we been doing? Like, what is Adam Ware doing? At Sinclair. Where are these numbers coming from? And then this website, I don't want to say it's new, just because it wasn't on my radar. I have to look more into it. But Sean O'Leary of the News of Pro Wrestling, NPW, had a deep dive with Adam Ware onto the numbers. So I feel like I need to read this whole thing. So Comet TV lauded success of NWA Power's viewer growth across every demo. NWA Power reached 273,000 on July 11th. It's been on the air for 11 weeks now. Wow, that was fast. And we've seen NWA Power increase across all of our key demos. Okay. It's been great, said Adam Ware, SVP Growth Network Group for Sinclair. You can't just look at 1 week or 2 weeks. It takes time for trends to emerge. It's been on the air for 11 weeks, and we've seen NWA Power increase all our demos. People continue to sample it. Where has more experience than most TV executives? COO at UPN from 99 to 2002. Of course, that was the time SmackDown was on there. My context for NWA is both professional and growing up with WWF in New York watching WWOR. I'm looking at this both from a fan's and viewer's perspective, and that's why we got involved. After the first show, NWA announced 275,000 people watch Power, though questions surrounded the number, as publicized Nielsen ratings are limited to prime time. Ware confirmed that reach number was accurate and explained the reach has remained strong as NWA Power now airs weekly on Saturdays at 4 p.m. and midnight. The first show had 3 airings because we had a primetime special. So the premiere had a reach of 275,000. For the July 11th episode, the reach was 273,000 with only 2 airings, so the average has gone up dramatically. For a linear network like Comet, the coveted demos are 25 to 54. On July 4th, NWA averaged 32,000 viewers in the demo, peaking at 60,000. It set a new ratings record for NWA Power and reached the level of other top-drawing movies or shows. The July 4th special was in line with the highest rated shows we air. We have movies, something like Interstellar that will pop a number. That's the level NWA is at. How NWA is proving its worth. Ware's background with wrestling led to the decision to air the show twice on Saturdays, specifically because he felt late Saturday night was a good time. I remember WWOR would air WWF at 11 p.m. on Saturdays. It just feels like a good time, as it follows other broadcast programming. There are different measures of success for 4 p.m. and late night, which shifted to midnight, and a change in time showed an increase. For the afternoon, it's about building your lead in adding viewers. When the show starts at midnight, the goal is to get people to continue watching instead of turning off TV, either for something else or to go to bed. NWA has delivered for both. For the July 11th, Ware said the show's ratings when it started with 28,000, with 14,000 and 25 to 54 demo. After 45 minutes, viewers increased 57% to 44,000, and the demo went up 50% to 21,000. This is my comment, John. People were picking up their landline telephones and be like, "You got to see this NWA on comment."
Yeah.
The midnight airing for July 11th showed the strength of viewer retention, as it started with 54,000 and still had 56,000 by 12:45 a.m. Ware had effusive praise for the entire NWA. Of course, Billy Corgan. This is every aspect of why we want to get involved. It's really exciting. You have the owner intimately involved, who just happens to be a huge rock star. You have great characters and great stories. Billy is deeply involved in the storytelling and the character development. It's a throwback to wrestling from the 70s and early 80s, when it was successful and very local. Being as old as it is, NWA has its history to support that approach. Accessibility is clearly a selling point for NWA, with the TV shows being available for free. Upcoming TV tapings have tickets for as little as $14.95. In particular, Ware said NWA's approach to storytelling, along with the distribution model, brings it closer to the classic pro wrestling. There's nothing wrong with WWE, but they've become too big if you believe what's missing for fans is that overall accessibility. You can get up and close to these heroes. You can have a good time. You can smile at them and not be far away. It's a great price point for buying tickets and watching for free. He speaks from personal experiences where attended multiple NWA tapings, including the Crockett Cup and Hard Time Special, the 78th anniversary in Philly. He attended the first Comet TV tapings. He watched the roster cut promos. At first, there was little uncertainty, wondering if this would work. As soon as the camera started rolling and they were cutting promos, I knew how good they were. These were professionals. It was impressive. He credits the NWA and staff for creating a family-like work environment. Though he declined to name favorites, I like all of them. I don't want anyone left out. Ware did mention Greta, a 6'2" women wrestler, and the Federation of Champions, a faction with several top stars. NWA runs completely counter to what we've seen elsewhere in pro wrestling, and that's what attracted Sinclair and Comet. Another version doesn't make sense for us. We like to go after that origin story, especially with a leader like Billy, who is so involved and chasing that memory of his own personal experience. It's very rare to be in business for someone like that. So, John, I don't think it could get any more comprehensive than that on these numbers that were confusing us.
I love that. I love that he was so giving with all that stuff too. That was a great job by Adam Ware there. Great job by NPW, this new news of pro wrestling.
So now the reality of the situation. NWA 78. This is, of course, just the reserve tickets is 379 of 662. Just a few days away as we're recording this. So likely there'll be at least over 400. So 2/3 of the reserve seats and then some GA. So, not the worst situation there. And we've seen big pickups with companies like MLW, but, not a quick sell, even with Nadia Neidhart, even with Comet TV. So still a challenge.
So as far as what else is going on in NWA, like it just seems like the live attendance maybe not so great though.
Yeah, so that's the NWA, and we don't have too much numbers from their TV tapings. That would be small in Tampa. I would imagine that those would be fairly full. I guess I could watch the video to see.
Yeah, but still,
Again,
it's not a huge number though.
yeah, not a huge number. The Empower thing is quite intriguing. That of course they'll be doing with one of their affiliates that is of course owned by the two sisters that are wrestlers as well. So I think that's really a genuine sense. So things are generally looking up for the NWA, and like it's always about like who's in charge of programming and what they connect to, and with Adam Ware, this really resonates for him. Apparently, I mean, they owned ROH, so obviously that was a big cost involved, and there's the opportunity to sell it. So even if they wanted that programming, but I always would think back, and Tony Khan isn't in a rush to distribute outside of the Warner model, that maybe they could have gone back and been like, hey, we have this programming, we don't have a distributor now. Traditionally, would you want it, for the diginets, for the syndication and so on? But NWA kind of felt like a Sinclair fit when there was like a lot of political things centering around it. Now it doesn't feel as political either way, but obviously a good fit in a different way, a more traditional way.
What about ACW and Poughkeepsie? What the heck is going on here? Seems like they're drawing pretty good.
Yeah, so I was just curious, like, what would this number look like and how would it compare to the past? Because, we don't often think about it, but Poughkeepsie is kind of on the outer band of like commuting into New York City for work. Like I worked with somebody who worked in Poughkeepsie, and some of my students a couple of them come from Poughkeepsie and then get off 125th Street. So it's not exactly like, you're not exactly competing with Madison Square Garden, but then, there's people in the Hudson Valley that, they're a little bit closer to the city. And are they going to Madison Square Garden, or are they going to ACW and something like that? So I was just wondering, like, would this be a challenging date? And it seemed like it. And I was also wondering with the NXT coming the following month, like, how would they do? And at the end of the day, they did well. So they did 1,250 at this show. ACW presents Independence Day. How does that match up historically? So just some of the numbers that we have from WrestleTix. I think there's some others in addition on Cage Match, but on January 4th, 2025, they did 1519, May 2025, 1322, and March of this year, 1772. So I guess, numerically the lowest of all these, but within the range. And I think there's been some other shows that they've done that has been a little bit lower. So I think very viable. And just, we're going to talk about NXT numbers in a moment, but just in comparison's sake, so August 13th, so about 3 weeks time as we record this, a little bit more, 773 in the next same venue. And of course, Madison Square Garden ended up pulling it out with over 15,000 tickets. I thought, John, that was a lot to do about nothing there with somebody sharing observer numbers, a week later that only 9,000 tickets have been sold. And that, I don't know for you, John, but for me, that was like trending. Is like the top story, relevant story to me on Twitter.
Yeah, I just like rolled my eyes. I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll see after it gets announced by WrestleTix. Let's see what happens. And it was 15,000. So I was like, all right, yeah, figured that. What about NXT though? What's going on with NXT?
Yeah, so NXT, obviously, as we've talked about, the main goal isn't to draw a big crowd, but it has to be viable on some level, as they're a very bottom line focused organization. And, I don't know. I mean, they keep adding like 3-day shots and so on. So I think it's generally working for them. So we talked about Poughkeepsie, but that's the first leg of a 3-leg swing on the eastern seaboard, I guess you could say. Poughkeepsie 773 on August 14th. Salisbury, Maryland 505. Petersburg, Virginia, a little bit over 1,000. Heat wave, I don't have those numbers yet, but that's its own thing. And then a swing in September, Columbia, South Carolina, Township Auditorium, 751. Greensboro, North Carolina, 621. And Knoxville, Tennessee, 711. Jim Cornette would be having his head explode if they did that low number for Smokey, but obviously 2 months out. So we have to wait for a final number.
How about TNA? They're touting some big numbers. Is this in fact true?
Yeah, so it's interesting that others were sharing it first, and then they posted it that we were all ready to write off TNA on AMC. They weren't ranking them in the demos in the top 100. But maybe the Road Dogg should have rushed his way over there a little bit quicker. Maybe he could have got credit for this number, the highest rating in 8 years for them. Obviously, as they came off, certainly Spike, but then when they came off Pop TV, and then I think Destination America was next, and then Access TV for years, and then here on AMC, they did a really good number, 286,000 viewers on July 16th. Brendan Thurston of WrestleNomics actually had the numbers previously. So the previous week was 188,000. So a 50% increase, trailing 4 weeks, a 29% increase. This episode was up 50% in the 1849 demo, but down 25% when you consider the last 4 weeks. So interesting to see how that bounced around, but I think that would certainly be considered a success. Interesting to see that it shows the TNA WE relationship is still pretty good. They congratulated Santana on his debut in NXT. Some of the numbers as we have them at the moment from WrestleTix. The Philly double shot on July 30th and 31st, 1,323, and then 1,000. So a nice pickup there. Lockdown, 2,000 in Chicago. Brampton, Ontario, 662, 772 in late August, and then late September. And San Antonio, 686 and 684. Just a look at what's ahead, followed by a couple notes. October 11th, Tampa. November 15th, Edmonton, November 18th, Calgary, and the 19th, Calgary, and December 17th and 18th in El Paso at the County Coliseum. An interesting thing that they were, there's been talk about them working with OVW, a little bit more formal here, that OVW had its Independence Rage actually streamed for free for people that were registered on TNA Plus. So interesting to see that alignment as we've been talking a lot about distribution. And the Len Asper owned Brampton Honey Badgers are going to have a series of events with cross promotion, which just makes a lot of sense. And I didn't have a chance to look into it, but apparently Mark Cuban, who's no longer an owner of the Dallas Mavericks, has some investment from what I had seen in a headline in the Brampton Honey Badgers. So I have to look into that a little bit more.
What about GC Dub and the bad boy himself?
So Brett kind of painted himself a little bit in the corner here, but I'm sure if he wants to achieve this, he will. That GCW state number 50 will be Massachusetts, and my goal is to do somewhere real special to me in summer 2027. So that's a really interesting thing. I was thinking maybe like it's a good idea to announce what that is and then put tickets on sale. It could be challenging in Boston. Look at AEW, right? In the venue that they ran, I think it was under 2,000 for one of those evenings and not sold out. But the bad boy is getting there. John, the reserve tickets are gone, just GA. John, if you're going to get with it, it's time to get moving.
I know. I was thinking about that. I gotta focus in here.
What's our weekly barometer? Does it seem more or less likely that you'll be there?
It seems more likely, I think, because of the date that it falls. It should be more likely.
Nice. So we'll be on the lookout for some X photos from the event, shared as well on Facebook. Then the Atlantic City, talking about local, John. The homecoming, as we've talked about for a number of years, that's really been down. So August 15th, still some time, but plenty of tickets left in the second row and beyond. Then LA, September 12th. A little bit of time, but the second row almost gone, and then the first two rows of the stage, but generally they tend to sell that out. Some other shows in Nebraska, July 31st. It's interesting, when I look at the map, it looks like no reserve tickets were sold, but then when you look at the best available, it shows third row. So hopefully that is going well. There's shows in Minnesota in conjunction with First Wrestling are GA. There's seated GA and standing room GA. Plenty of tickets available there. Just running through, as I mentioned, Omaha, Minnesota, Asbury Park, Atlantic City. What we didn't mention yet is Denver at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds. LA, we mentioned. Detroit, Harpo's Concert Theater. Back to Cincinnati, September 26th. Anchorage, Alaska, October 3rd. And then Indianapolis on November 7th.
How about the Juggalos? Juggalo Championship Wrestling, JCW, bro.
Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't watched any of their videos recently. One of them was headline saying like 52 partners, like who's the baby daddy of Vince really going all out on his style, but we're going to take a look on to see if that's working. But in terms of their streaming platform, as we've talked about, it's really, are you going to go to AEW? You're going to focus on YouTube. You're going to create your own platform, and jcwlunacy.net. The newly launched platform is packed with features, and PW Ponderings, the official business podcast of official business website for us, is the had the scoop. So weekly show streaming, exclusive video archives, up-to-date profiles, the latest news and results, official merchandise, and interactive community hub. Our friend Romy Glazer was impressed by it and was commenting on social media as well. So that sounds like the infrastructure is there, but how are they doing on YouTube over the last 365 days? I think that's when Russo started working there. Viewership is consistently 25 to 50K per episode shortly after updates. It aligns or exceeds some things like NWA and MLW type benchmarks. Its special events, Stranglemania does 90,000 views a year. Older episodes are 20 to 55. Usually there's about 80 plus episodes and specials. Engagements, likes are often 1 to 2,000. Active comments on things like cocaine, the women's division, and investor storylines. Loyal core audience. By the way, I have to credit this to Grok. Growth contribution, JCW content, accounts for the bulk of recent views. It leverages ICP and Juggalo fan base, of course. Viewers hold week to week. The format mixes wrestling and promos. Over the last year, there's been 9 million plus views with steady but not viral growth, anchored by reliable JCW Lunacy output on top of evergreen music catalog.
What is going on in the world of Curacao, the Japanese market?
Thank you, John. I always mess up the
Yes.
pronouncing. Now, this was shocking to me in terms of Kadani, Bushiroad's president, talking about the decision to sell New Japan. And this was talking to Playboy Weekly. I was a little bit afraid to click on this. Not at home. I wasn't sure if it was affiliated with the brand or whatever. So thankfully, Fightful had a summary. On January 23rd, 2024, Netflix signed a huge distribution contract with WWE. This was the most shocking thing in 14 years. The distribution rights of the program alone are 740 billion yen. Rate at the time of 24 in 10 years. There's no way I can win anymore. I looked up at the sky literally. At that time, from now on, New Japan will have no choice but to team with huge capital with strong media and distribution infrastructure. I realized that it was no longer a field where I could fight with Bushiroad alone. John, this made no sense to me, because did Kadani think he was really competing with WWE eventually?
That's kind of the way he's like wording it, oddly. Yeah.
Yeah, but like they weren't making those type of moves like they were, all in, no pun intended, on competing or even competing worldwide anymore with AEW. So this was pretty surprising. Now, in terms of a smaller story, TJPW is coming back to the US and Texas specifically. I think promoted, I'm not sure of the language, Tokyo Story USA is involved in this. So they had an announcement, and then Tokyo Story on their email list. I got the announcement there. The second TJPW Texas Tour of the Year is official. 3 shows to be held in Houston and Dallas, December 4th to 6th. Texas Stampede 2. It ain't our first rodeo. Okay, so let's go here. So it'll be at, let's see, December 4th, Pasadena Rodeo Arena. And then a second night there, and then the OC in Forney, Texas. So it was interesting when Tokyo Story USA was promoting it. They had a note that the wrestlers shown in the poster are not guaranteed to appear. There's some of the wrestlers Tokyo Story is guessing may be part of the tour, but the final lineup will be announced later. It kind of feels like a little bit of like misalignment between like partners in terms of sharing information, which could be challenging overseas.
What about as far as Lucha, the Lucha world going on?
So it's interesting because I remember we talked about this article in 2025, and I'm going to mess up the pronunciation, from El País. And then La Taco had a very similar story, but then La Taco actually referenced the previous one. This is about, it feels like a very woke story, like is Lucha Libre being gentrified? But it's not exactly that. So El País had framed Lucha Libre, especially CMLL, as undergoing gentrification. It highlighted rising ticket prices, more tourists and wealthy attendance at prime seats, reduced interaction for traditional fans, and a shift from a working-class neighborhood sport to a global sports attraction. From La Taco, it directly references and responds to the article. It questions whether it's truly gentrification or more complex boom globalization, drawing on-the-ground reporting, recent attendance data, price comparison, and photos. La Taco builds on the same core issues, but adds fresh developments and a counter-narrative. Business growth and success. CML hit record sellouts, scanned 1 million tickets at Arena Mexico, and expanded partnership. It now collaborates with all these international promotions. Pricing reality check. CML tickets remain relatively affordable, $5 to $46. They compare favorably to AAA events, WWE, and specials. Cash flow notes prices rising for big events to cover costs and improve pay and operations, like hair versus hair and so on. CML perspective. He attributes tourist presence to deliberate tourism board partnerships and marketing, not displacement. He argues true gentrification involves pricing out regulars, which isn't happening here. Arenas sell out with mixed crowds. Tourism is seen as revitalizing the Doctores area and boosting the local economy, akin to New York City or LA. Broader context, ties changes to post-COVID streaming success, leadership under Salvador Lutherath, government cultural tourism initiatives, and Lucha Libre's evolution into a global phenomenon rather than gentrification. On-the-ground reporting includes vivid descriptions and photos. So, John, do you know people that were like Arena Mexico regulars or go to Mexico to see Lucha, and like, what are they sharing? Is it getting too expensive? Is it inaccessible?
No, I just know my cousin had went there, and I've heard of other people going there saying that it's not that inexpensive, that it's pretty good, just like it's actually fair. So that's kind of the idea that I'm getting from it.
Very interesting. Yeah, and as I mentioned years ago, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law went there, and they went to a Arena Mexico and a mask making workshop, and I was quite jealous, and they don't even care about
Yeah, that's
wrestling.
freaking awesome. Yeah, damn.
So our friend Kevin Kleinrock, debatably our favorite guest. I know that's a challenging question, but certainly one of our favorite guests. He had a nice tie-in, basically thinking like, look, August 28th to 30th, there's going to be a lot of lucha in Texas. So, of course, on the 30th, anchored by AAA, in the NXT Heatwave show. But the long planned, I think this had been moved from a different date, unless I'm mixing it up. But the long planned Mass Mania show on August 20th in Laredo has Los Piratas against Los Cadetes del Espacio, and a lot of well-known names on there. And then a Lucha Libre by the Bay on August 29th, unaffiliated in the middle there. So a lot of wrestling, and I think it's like a good opportunity for Mass Mania to sort of like draw on media, like talking about Lucha and how AAA and WWE's involvement there. So it's smart to tie things into bigger stories.
And finally, here and there, a little bit of Dark Side of the Ring talk here. I love it.
Yeah. So what was really intriguing to me was what's already sold out, which is no surprise. The VHS clamshell of the Necro and Samoa Joe match, which I actually wasn't aware of at all. That I knew that that they had wrestled, but I didn't know that there was this underground buzz to it or what was going on. But they have the IWA logo on the cover, so for better or worse, an opportunity for Ian Rotten to maximize his library, and this sold out right away. Now, Wildwood, New Jersey, John, as a day before as we record this, so in terms of the reserve seats, 298 of 546, plus a pretty big GA section there at the convention center. What do you think the final numbers, at least as we could learn them from the reserve, will be of a max 546, John?
Oh, I think it'll get close. I think it'll be over 500 for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Depending on how they're working the boardwalk, getting the word out there, and the Headbangers retirement match as well. Something that I miss is Wrestle Map covering the international scene. But I came across an article. It was actually a letter to the paper in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know if the person was affiliated that wrote it, but either way, it's a smart promotion. Professional Wrestling's revival. Last Sunday, another packed house witnessed the continued resurgence of pro wrestling in TNT. The new Evolution Wrestling promotion put on another spectacle in Tacaragua, which attracted local wrestling fans of all backgrounds. TNT is no stranger to wrestling. There was a local boom in the 70s and 80s, led by Thunderbolt Williams and Ray Apolone. Today, new legends such as Thunderbolt's son Lightning and Remy Rice lead an unexpected but entertaining revival. TNT maintains a subtle yet remarkable relationship with the art form. So just like a good positive article. And just wanted to highlight some articles that I suggest you go out and find for the interest of time and my voice after a struggle with reading the article about the NWA. Chicago Sun-Times had a coverage of the Berwyn Eagles Club and their new ownership. The long and the short of that is that it's still up in the air. Discover Estevan in Canada had a really good wrap-up of Canadian wrestling elites non-stop touring, or I guess there are stops, 18-day tours, 16-day tours, 23-day tours, and how they build community. It's really an underreported story, and they come up in my results all the time. And the Times West Virginian had a feature on Real Shoot Wrestling, which had a number of shows in Connecticut recently, and how they beat the odds of longevity. So 3 or 4 article recommendations.
Nice. Good stuff, Lavie. Good stuff, obviously, from John from Victory Pro as well. So let's wrap it up and head towards the plugs. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Lavie?
Yeah, check out my books, Ultimate Fighters and Trump Mania. I actually just lowered some of the prices on some of the books in terms of digital versions and audio versions, so accessible to most. Check out my long form articles on linecubjobsearch.com. Check me out on X, Lavie Marg, Lavie Marg, and join our LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business, and support us. Like, share, rate, review, and advertise. We're getting near 300 episodes, and we want to support things moving forward and be able to justify to our wives the time spent in giving you this wonderful information.
Good call. Good point. All right. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. See you right back here next week for Business of the Business. See you next week, folks.